Are you a fan of vampires? Then check out Vlada, a Dracula Tale on Facebook and on Twitter for more information about an exciting new graphic novel coming soon from me and artist Ken Hunt. We take the entire story of Dracula and we gender swap the cast. This is not your traditional graphic novel. It's very akin to the Bernie Wrightson Frankenstein that you may have seen or read about. Amazing black and white illustrations and covers by Ken Hunt, as well as by Tim Vigil, Kara Nicole, and many others contributing to this amazing project. Keep an eye on the Vlada, a Dracula Tale, Facebook and Twitter for more information about the exciting Kickstarter coming late October. This is Dr. Chris's Radio Horror program at 91.3 FM. If you're not catching this recorded interview live, then hopefully you're catching it on the Radio Horror YouTube channel, where you can check out all the videos, including an interview recently with a couple of stars from her movie that we'll get into a little later on. Tonight on the show with us, we have director, writer, actress, producer, camera operator, a whole bunch of titles. Jamielyn Lippman, thank you for coming on the show with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
You wear many hats. I saw on your IMDb. I was just like, oh, that's cool. She's a director and she's made this horror movie, and it's all her project. But then I saw that you have multiple hats that you wear. Is it easier to control your own production when you are just in charge of everything, or do you become so stressed out that you don't want to ever do it again?
I'm primarily a director, writer, and then I end up producing a lot of my own stuff. I think the past history of many hats is just when you're in low budget films, I've always kind of stepped in to help people, filmmaker friends that need it. So that's where you get the random camera operator and things that are not, I mean, you'll see like on Jen and Michael Bean's movies, I have a variety of roles that I've helped them do in the past, even behind the scenes stuff and B camera, that sort of thing. And then acting, I was an actress for like over a decade, but I stopped doing that. I mean, a really long time ago. So primarily just, directing. And then I always get producers to come on and do stuff with me, but I also feel at the end of the day, I mean, when you're lower, I make a lot of low budget things. So I am quite good at producing, and you're the only one that's going to help, see your film to the end with that kind of commitment. So I always end up producing my own stuff as well.
Is there one particular thing that made you want to get out of acting and just go straight behind the camera? Or was it just a matter of like, this was easier behind the camera than remembering lines?
No, I've always been in love with film since I was 7. I always cared more about film than I ever did acting. Acting was something I did as a kid and I did through high school. So it was like a natural progression to when I moved to Hollywood to be an actress. But I simultaneously went to film school, started writing scripts, making short films. But when I was acting, I always cared about everything else more than my part. And there was also there isn't as much control in your part as far as what happens when you get to post. But when I would act, I would hang out on sets and I would, hang out with the DP and crew people. And I was much more I studied film and filmmakers. Like I would read biographies. Kubrick is my favorite director. And I would read biographies on him and watch documentaries on filmmakers, never actors. So it was a very natural transition to move full-time in directing. And I don't miss anything about acting. I love actors and I love that I can relate to what they go through. I think that makes me a good actor's director, but I care more about the film than anything.
I'm insanely jealous of some of the people that you've got to work with, because I was looking through your IMDb, and again, I just knew you from like, hey, I worked, or from Jennifer, our mutual friend, talking about the movie Killer, the movie that you guys made together with her husband. I was like, oh, this is really cool. Then I watched the trailer, then I watched the movie. I was like, okay, wow, this is really awesome. And then I started exploring a little bit more about who you were. And then I was like, oh my God, she also worked with like Martin Landau and Chris Christopherson. That's so cool. I don't know if Chris Christopherson is still with us, but Martin Landau recently passed away. And I'm actually going to be having his daughter come back on my show coming up soon. Because she's producing like this big vampire documentary, and and then the other people you worked with, like you being in Boogie Nights, I was like, oh, this is really cool. But the one thing that really took the cake for me is one of my favorite films in terms of like independent cinema. So you're always gonna like break up your favorite films of all time. And I always like group in like my independent movies, and one of my favorite freaking independent movies is Comic Book Villains. I absolutely love that movie.
Oh yeah, I forgot about all this stuff. You're like reminding me of my 20s. I've been here doing this like over 2 decades. So yeah, that was really fun. I have a pretty small part in that, but yeah, I like that. I knew that director pretty well back in my 20s, and yeah, I haven't seen that for ages as well.
I just showed that to somebody the other day who had never seen it, and I was they were like, "Show me, what about something independent?" And I was like, "Well, you like comic books. Here's something that's not a comic book movie, but it's in the world." It's because I knew they liked Kevin Smith, and Kevin Smith's films are all about this. You know what I mean? This could have been a Kevin Smith movie as just as well. And so I showed him comic book villains, and I absolutely love it. The last thing you did was working with Michael Biehn for The Victim, right? That was your last role as an actor. Is that how you met Michael and Jennifer, and then you guys years later would do Killer Weekend?
Well, so I met Jennifer, and we have a lot of mutual friends. And in my 20s, Brian and Denny Kirkwood and Lorna Paul, they're all really good friends of mine. Lorna's a producer and one of my dearest friends. And so for some reason, I had never met Jen. And everyone was like, how do you not know Jen Blanc? But she had heard the same thing about me because we have so many mutual friends. So we did this movie called The Absent, I want to say 10 years ago. I think that's actually the last movie that I was in. Maybe over 10 years now. And we played sisters, white trash trailer park sisters. She was my older sister. And we didn't meet until we got to Washington. We were shot in Winthrop, Washington. And I had actually been waiting in the restaurant for her to arrive. And so we could meet and kind of go over our scenes. And we were just like, I can't believe we've never met before. And instantly had so much fun working together and instantly clicked. And then I kind of transferred full time into filmmaking, and she's like, you should come make a movie for us. So she sent me a couple scripts, and I read Killer Weekend. I said, this seems like it'll be a lot of fun. And yeah, I came on board to direct that. And she's great. I mean, her and Michael, they're really, really great people and friends and great to work with. Yeah, she's very supportive. I mean, of when you're friends with her, it's like a lifetime thing. And she's supportive. She'll show up to all of your premieres, promote you on social media. Like, she genuinely cares. And it's such an, artist community being in this business. But she's always been a very good connector as well. And always the first one to be like, oh, you've got to meet so-and-so, pairing people together that she thinks would be a good match.
Your film that you did with them, Killer Weekend, a sexy co-ed enjoys a lavish lifestyle thanks to a sugar daddy dating app, accessing their money by having them killed. She soon meets her match, however, in a rich, new, handsome boyfriend who happens to also be a serial killer. Where did your, I want to say love, but that might sound creepy, obsession sounds weird, where did the thing with serial killers, just call it a thing, with serial killers come from?
Well, I mean, I like all genres of film. I'm more, I'm a big Hitchcock fan. But when it comes to these thrillers, this was the first one I had ever made. I know that besides being part of The Victim, I know they do a lot of, which is bigger budget, but I know she had been doing a lot of these micro budget thrillers. And I just, when I had read the script, I just thought it was very timely with what we're going through in dating apps, and just thought there was a lot of potential and that it would be a lot of fun. And I had, so many talented people, and with the resources of me and Jen, knew something in really difficult constraints. I mean, we shot this movie in 8 days. And Travis Romero, he wrote the script, and we all just kind of came together. And movie making is a lot of work, but it's also so much fun. And I'd met a lot of people that now I continue to work with from that film. So for me, I just thought it was a good opportunity and would be really great to work with Jen and Michael. Yeah, I just kind of connected into making this relatable, timely film, but then still giving that element of a thriller, suspense, that sort of thing.
A few years ago, there was a Kickstarter for serial killer trading cards. Have you seen these?
No.
They're awesome. It was their second edition, and even the second edition has completely sold out. And I always get hits on my YouTube channel for the video that I posted, because I went through every card in the video, and people are just like, if you plan on ever selling those cards to me, please, this is my email address. Let me know immediately before you do, because they're go for $200 or $300 now for a set of trading cards.
Oh, I've got to check those out.
Oh, they're so. I will send you the link to the video. You will love it. It's beautiful. I think you can still get like calendars and other things, but the cards themselves wiped out, gone. And the people behind it were really appreciative of me doing that. They were like, "We thank you for that. They're not on sale anymore, so please at least take that link off the video." But we appreciate the promotion for it because we got a lot of people from your video being like, "Where are these cards? This guy from some radio show was talking about them."
Well, I think that with serial killers, I mean, I've always been fascinated by serial killers and like what actually propels the psyche of like drives someone to actually kill. And like, there's a place called the Museum of Death in LA. I'm not sure if you've ever been, but I first went when I was in my early 20s, and it is literally covers every serial killer you could ever imagine, and artifacts and letters and clippings, and it's very haunting, but also very interesting because you kind of go from room to room. And I was always kind of fascinated by that. And then actually for Killer Weekend, I went back to do research, and went back to the Museum of Death, and I hadn't been in like, oh God, over probably 10, 15 years. And I mean, it's just wall to wall to wall. It's like multiple rooms. They actually made it a bigger location. So
No.
I kind of came up with like how I wanted some of the kills to be based on images that I saw in that museum. But yeah, I've always found it, fascinating.
Knowing what these people have done and the lives they have taken, and we dismiss and disgust ourselves with people like Osama bin Laden or, not trying to get political, but things of that nature or whatever. Why do you think serial killers are so revered in so many movies and stories and books, and even yourself or whatever, taking homages from some of these terrible people in life to put into art?
I think we're fascinated and by things that we don't understand or that we don't relate to. And I mean, that at least is for me. And then trying to figure out like the interest of where does somebody come from, like their childhood, or what is it in their life that makes them actually flip. And yeah, I think that's what it is that to me, I've always just been more, I like darker independent films. I mean, I like a variety of, but I've always also liked true life stories, and I like seeing the lightness out of pain. Yeah, I just think that we're just more, a lot of us are just more drawn to things that we don't know or understand.
Your movie definitely has an ambiance to it. It has like a definition of words sometimes is hard for me, but it has this look to it of like definitely going into it in like the first few scenes of like it being like a psychological movie. Like if you didn't know anything about this film, you would definitely get the feeling of like a psychological thriller from this film.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think for us.
Sorry, I didn't mean to stump you with that compliment.
No, I don't know if that is a compliment, but I don't even know how to respond to that. I think that for me, it's like I think what we're looking at, what I was fascinated by with these characters, is that people kill for different reasons, and getting behind that, and what is the backstory under that. And I feel like with this, it's a shorter film, and almost like we want to show you more than we want to tell you. And I think that's what, like, when we get to the ending, you're going to use your own deductive reasoning to kind of make reason of what happened.
In writing the script, did you have to delve into the world of sugar daddies? Because delving into the world of serial killers will probably get you hurt, but delving into the world of sugar daddies, a little easier, might be safer.
Well, Travis Ramiro wrote the script, and then myself, he wrote like White Collar and a bunch of other stuff. And then myself, and Michael did a few like working sessions and kind of fleshing out some of the scenes. So for me, I had never like done dating apps or anything like that. I just kind of went under the guise of like, let's look at like Heidi Fleiss and Madams, and kind of modeled it on that. But then transforming that, the communication now is done over an app on a phone. So it's kind of the same thing, which, was in the 90s was such a big deal. Like I was fascinated always reading about like Heidi's Girls and how that all worked. So I just kind of, for me, getting the understanding of what this is about, but transferring it to modern day with a dating app.
And the movie hasn't come out yet, right? It's coming out in October?
Yeah, so the film is coming out, is it October 13th?
According to IMDb, October 1st.
Wait, did they change? I think we got pushed. Gravitas is distributing the film.
Oh,
And
okay.
I think
According to
they
IMDb still has it as the first, so it might be. They just nobody's updated this yet.
yeah, so we got during COVID, it was just the right time. And I've put out a couple other films with them, and so yeah, they're really on board and excited about it. And so we'll see where, I imagine just like all VOD, and we'll make sure to like update our page and everything once we know any kind of further details. But they just actually sent me, they sent all of us what they came up with for the poster. And yeah, I was really kind of blown away. It was really cool to see it. Like, it's years later. We made this movie a while ago. So for it to come together and finally come out is pretty exciting.
Do you ever have a time that you were making something big or small, or something that you were working on even as an actress? Maybe it wasn't your project per se, that at the same time, on the border of it being released, somebody else put out the exact product very similar, and did it kind of destroy your opinion about your own work?
No, I've never had that happen. The only thing I had happen was I made this film called When the Bow Breaks, and it's not the horror-esque film. It was a documentary, and they literally came out, the two films, I mean, like not even a month apart, and they're with the exact same title. And I had actually known one of the producers on that film, but I think if anything, because we got a lot of press for our film because Brooke Shields narrated it. It was like almost like some people were very confused, but I think it's like the more press they got and the more press they got, it didn't hurt either film either. So
something similar like that has just within the last day happened to me. We're trying to put out a product of a comic book that is now turned into more of like a picture novel. And at the exact same time, we're about to launch the Kickstarter to hopefully help it get funded. Big frickin' studio, like something we just don't even. I mean, they have enough money to make a Batman movie, let's just say, which they've done. Is putting out something similar in the same type of format for a comic book. Kind of brought the whole team down. Yeah. Because it has a big frickin' DC artist on it. It has a big frickin' DC writer on it. It's not DC Comics, but these people have Superman, Batman credits to their name. And it's being published by a company that has made Batman movies and made Godzilla movies. And it's like, how do you compete against that? It's a company that makes Godzilla films.
Yeah, it's disheartening. I mean, I have the book rights to, and story, I have life rights to a couple of different stories and a few options. And it's just the kind of thing where I have to like keep renewing every year until I can have the budget to make these kind of things. And luckily there's stories that are smaller or most people don't know about, or I have like a Holocaust book where they don't care about bigger and better. The family will only work with who they trust. And through a really dear friend of mine, that's how it was brought to me. But with some of the things, I always have the back of my mind fear, like, what if somebody else comes along with more money and this and that, and I'm just this, small person over here. But at the end of the day, like, I can't control that. And then fortunately for the stuff that I write, my writing style is in what the kind of films that I like. I just wrote Hollywood Trick, and my next film is Hollywood Gamble. Nobody could really copy that because it's almost like, I don't want to say like I'm so original, but they're not really, I don't know, they're kind of my made up stories about circumstances. So I don't really have fears and stuff that I write myself, but it's hard to compete with people that have, money. That's tough.
How many days did it take to make Killer Weekend?
8.
Wow. That's good for you. I mean, it's short, but good for you still. I've seen films that took like 5 years to make, and the final product was like, oh, good God, what did you guys do? They're like, yeah, no, we know, trust us.
We had 7 shooting days and 1 pickup day, and I was kind of warned, like, you're going to be thrown into this, like, it's very quick. I shot list everything, and in these kind of conditions, you don't have time for that. You're making a feature film in a week, and there's just, what I liked about it is that I was still overly prepared, but when you get on set, you realize that you have to just throw a lot out of the window, and you do think on your toes. And there is sometimes where you have like 30 minutes, to shoot a scene, or like our ending, which we shot a very short amount of time. And it's stressful, but it's also very exciting and exhilarating. And I think in this kind of experience, I learned so much because you have to be resourceful. I mean, there were days where I'd literally get to set and we'd be like pulling stuff for set deck out of my car because I'd like pull drapes down. I mean, Jennifer would bring like her bedroom. But when you have a small budget, you have to get people, and we had a full team. But that's the best part about it, is that everybody really came together, and like whatever was needed, everyone was willing to help. So I feel like this is where you like, for me, I mean, yeah, I went to film school and I made a lot of stuff, but like this is always training ground, when you have to work fast, think on your toes, and make decisions on the spot because you might not have that location that you were supposed to have.
Trust me, I know that. And we had to like improvise. There's a famous story involving a really cheesy B-80s movie that they basically had to film the rest of it in the backyard of someone's house.
Yep, I know those stories all too well. I mean, my last house, the house before, the apartment I live in now, they have been in many films. Lots of different films, lots of music videos. I mean, you use what you can, what you have.
Right. And then someone's told me, "Hey, do you have a cell phone?" Yeah. All right. Film this with your phone and just film it from every angle you could possibly think of, and we will chop it together. And I was like, "Really?" They're like, "We don't have the camera anymore." And I was like, "Oh no."
That's not good.
It's not, especially when you lose the cameraman due to whatever reason. The cameraman, I think, had to go. It was something that never ended up coming out, and I was so pissed too, because I was like, I'm not pissed at the guy who made it. I was just pissed at the overall just losing stuff or whatever. And then years later, I ended up doing like sound effects editing for him for a vampire movie, which is still also now in development hell because of COVID-19.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like, I commend anyone who can make and finish a film, because getting it from start to really finished, I mean, where it's being put out and distributed, because once you finish post, I mean, then the distribution world is a whole other animal, so it's like, it's a lot to get to that. That's why so many films don't get finished, and then all these extra expenses that come up. And so it's nice when you get there and you actually have a release date, and that moment you turn everything over to a distributor and it's out of your hands and you're like, oh my gosh, my work is done. Like, all I have left is to promote it, because I can't control what's going to happen when anything comes out. But the fact that you've finished is such a sigh of relief, because I feel like such a responsibility to like every actor and every person that comes on any project that I have, to get to the end, and hopefully that it can do well for them as well. That you can still be creative during this time. I was fortunate that I was in post on a film right when quarantine happened. So I was able to just Zoom edit, and people were really excited, like my sound mixer and composer. Everyone was just really excited to get on board because they can all work remotely. So I was very fortunate that I had a film ready to go into post once this all started.
Where are people going to be able to catch the film when it finally comes out, and where can they find you on social media to give you any to mention if they love the film or not?
I'm a big Instagram person. Just Jamielyn Lippman, Jamielyn Lippman, Lippman. And then for Killer Weekend, it's just under Killer Weekend Movie on Instagram, and then the same thing on Facebook. We have a Facebook page for that. So we'll keep updating it as we get more information of how and where it's going to be released. Follow us on Instagram.
Awesome, Jamie. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was nice talking to you. Thanks for having me.